Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Friday. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We are joined by two special guests, Mr. Jeff Fisher.
Hello.
From Chewing the Fat with Jeff Fisher.
Why are you?
The name is just still gets to me every time.
I mean, that's the name, Chewing the Fat.
And with Mr. Aaron Colin from Blaze.com. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's not chewing the fat.
No.
He's not chewing.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
He is a very distinguished
I know,
writer.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
At
I'm no
Blaze.com.
Jeffy,
You are no Jeffy, and
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that very much, Aaron.
Okay.
Stu, what's your top story?
Ilhan Omar said something dumb, so we're going to talk about it.
Oh,
That's a pretty good deal for
we
her.
can do that every day,
I know.
I feel.
We could.
All right,
Speaking of people who say things dumb and do things dumb, I kind of want to talk about Michael Avenatti. He's my favorite
I love
attorney.
this story so much.
This guy is really bad. I mean, good.
All right, Aaron.
And NPR is trying to tell journalists how to talk about abortion, and it's a little bit slanted.
A tad.
Surprise.
PR?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Weird.
A lot to get into, obviously. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. So, yes, I may have been a little bit larger than I am now. That was me like 12 years ago. So what I'm saying right now is what I'm about to tell you, I have personal experience in. I know the struggle of losing weight and keeping the weight off. That's the kicker, because people go on these yo-yo diets and they lose weight, but then they gain it back because they don't want to be stuck eating lettuce all day and for the rest of their lives. I think that would be really depressing.
Yes. Very depressing.
Or for you, doing it once.
Luckily, there is a product called Riduzone. It contains OEA, which is the metabolite in olive oil that helps boost your metabolism and help reduce your appetite. I use it to maintain. It works wonders. There are so many of you out there who have written in, you've sent emails, you've sent messages saying, thank you for your recommendation of Riduzone. I use it. It's worked for me. So if you're struggling with weight loss, try it now. Go to riduzone.com. That's RIDUZONE.com. Enter promo code THEBLAZE and you will get 30% off of a 3-month supply. Now is the time. Summer is upon us. And if you are going to go to the pool or go to the beach, I suggest you order it now. Riduzone.com, promo code THEBLAZE. Ilhan Omar said something stupid.
It's incredible. I know. I'm breaking news to everyone. Yeah, she had this speech in front of Congress here, and it's kind of repetitive at this point. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This group of new congresswomen who are basically leading the Democratic Party now the knowledge is low, the passion is high. It seems like a lot of times they're talking and they've heard these arguments before, but they don't know them. They're kind of just like, it's like they're almost like a game of telephone, like 12 liberals down the line, the actual facts started in their view. And then like by the time it gets to them, they don't really know. And they don't
know the
really
buzzwords.
Remember. They know the buzzwords. They kind of know the general, like they know, for example, people who want babies to live are bad. We know that. Like they think they're just people who think that babies should grow up to be adults at some point in their life. Terrible people who just don't care about women's rights, even though half the people who they'd be women. I don't know if anyone knows this. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But here's her speech in front of the House. This is about abortion, and if we had a counter, we could come up potentially with the number of false, ridiculous things she says in here. But let's try to digest it all, and we'll talk about it.
Let's just be honest. For the religious right, this isn't simply about their care or concern for life.
No, definitely
If
not.
they cared about or were concerned about children, they would be concerned about the children that are being detained and those that are dying in camps across our borders.
No.
Or the children who are languishing in hunger and facing homelessness.
Yeah, I can't take it.
This isn't about religious morality or conviction, because we've seen time and time again those that talk about their faith and want to push policies because of their faith
I hate those people.
are the ones that simply are caught with the hypocrisy of not living it out in their personal lives.
And that one goes on and on and on and on. Couple things. Simply is a 2-syllable word. Okay, it's not 3. You don't need to add any in there. Languishing.
Languishing?
I believe languishing, I think, is what she was going for. And this is an interesting thing. It's, I think, let me guess, Iran Contra affair?
Yes.
Yes, because it's the greatest
Whatever's
thing.
in front of her.
It's like she's basically Ron Burgundy.
Yes.
She just basically is reading, and you see constantly when she's making these speeches, her in particular, she's just reading it word for word, staring down at the paper, and you can tell she has no idea what she's talking about. I mean, she famously called the Iran Contra affair the Iran Contra affair because she's never seen the words Iran Contra affair together before, and she had no idea what she was talking about, while making a massive accusation at someone else's credibility and I mean, you're trying to trash someone else when you don't even know the basics of the.
I'll say that her plan kind of works, though, because when they do that on the Senate or the congressional side, nobody's there.
Yeah.
I mean, you look around, even just around her, no one is there.
It looks like a Blue Jays home game right now.
I would say worse.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say worse. I mean, there's one guy at the Blue Jays game.
Orioles home game. What with that? It's interesting in that, like, these are major claims, right? And she acts as if she really understands them. I mean, the border one is a great example. Of course, Glenn Beck famously, along with other left-wing extremists like Ted Cruz and Pat Gray, were down at the border in 2014 when Barack Obama was the one detaining all these migrant children and giving Christmas presents and things like this to the kids because we do care. I mean, I tweeted out something yesterday from Dan Andros over at Faithwire, and he had a lengthy list of here's a bunch of times that Christians cared in the recent past. And think about, like, for example, the Ebola breakout, right, in Liberia, where Franklin Graham's group, they're over there, these guys are walking into an Ebola crisis to try to heal people and cure and treat these diseases.
And back at it again, by the way.
Yeah, they do it all over the world all the time.
It's so easy to villainize the religious right, as they call it, the fundamentalist religious right. And it's funny how she attributes these negative motives to religious people, like you couldn't possibly care about unborn children. You must have some sort of ulterior motive as a religious fundamentalist for it. And she just makes this broad claim that the people who support pro-life because of religion are people who don't live it out in their personal lives. What is she basing that off of? It's just a broad claim that has no basis in fact, but because her side likes to villainize religious people, it goes over fine.
It's got those buzzwords, like we were talking about. It's got those buzzwords in it.
Like languishing?
Like languishing. That was the biggest buzzword. I just find it very perplexing that someone would even insinuate that you have to be religious to believe that it's wrong to murder babies.
Yeah, it's kind of insulting, I think, to the average agnostic, right? I mean, look, I think, there is an association, a close association with religious people and caring for unborn children. I think that's very true. I mean, statistically that lines up, but there's plenty of people who on the other side. And by the way, there's plenty of people who, say they're religious and don't necessarily care about the abortion issue.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people who are religious and care about children who are already born. Amazingly, that take care of those children. That's
a weird one too. It's like, I mean, come on, like if there's any group that's very famous in this country for doing charitable work to help people, I mean, you'd have to go to the churches.
Yes.
This is like, where are all these migrant children going when they cross the border? They're dropping them off at churches like crazy because they're the only ones who will take care of them. It's not the government that's stepping in and doing it. We've seen what the government care looks like. It's a bunch of cages and shiny blankets.
Right.
I mean, this is like, when it's people who are on the ground that care personally about these people that are going there. They're the people. Christian charities are the ones going to Haiti after flooding and earthquakes. They're the people who are going to all of the toughest areas, the toughest disasters on earth, and trying to help out. It's not they're good Christians and bad Christians, just like every other group. But the idea that you could associate this sort of like hypocrisy to Christians because they care about babies being born. Well, maybe here's another fix for this. If you think you care so much about migrant children, which I didn't see you in 2014 when Obama was there, didn't see you. Nope. But if you happen to care back then and just forgot or whatever, why not just also pick up the caring for the unborn children too? Then you can be consistent on your side.
You notice how often when they're talking about abortion, they have to transition to another issue to distract from it. They can't just stay and defend abortion because that you get too far into that, you see why it's wrong. So you have to pivot and say, oh, well, you don't care about immigration. It's a distraction that they use.
That's a great point. The whataboutism. The whataboutism is alive and real.
This goes to your point. I know your story's coming up too with the NPR thing. I mean, like, the lengths that these groups will go to not talk about the thing they're talking about.
Let's actually bring that into the conversation now.
Yeah, so NPR recently felt the need to remind journalists how to write and report about abortion, and so there's some specific rules.
Did you take some notes?
There's some specific rules about it. You can't use words like pro-life because that's their term. You can't use, don't say abortion doctor, don't say abortion clinic, don't say partial birth abortion. And so there's all these terms that, to where they're purposely trying to obscure the way abortion is talked about so that you don't really get to the heart of what abortion is, but you view it as a rights issue. And so you say people who are against abortion are not pro-life, they're anti-abortion rights. So it makes us sound like the bad guys.
That was what they tried to do with the heartbeat laws, too. Right? So
that's another one of the things on the list. Don't say fetal heartbeat because that humanizes.
Fetal pole cardiac activity.
They don't want to get to the heart of the situation.
Right, but I mean, what? So everyone is too dumb to know what cardiac means?
Well,
it's right there.
Yeah, I think it is humanizing. And their claim is like, well, this is what they're naming the bill, so we can't do that. And I've noticed this. We brought this up on a show, I think it was last week, and I was like, look at this. They put heartbeat in quotes. They did it again. Remember this?
It's the weirdest thing
I've ever seen. Like what they call a heartbeat. And it's like, what do you mean what they call a heartbeat? They did this in the NPR thing. They pointed this out as well. Like you can't call it a heartbeat because that's what they're saying. The New York Times has a story today where they say what the heartbeat, again in quotes, they're referring to is the what was it? A flashing pulse on a sonogram.
Oh wow!
What the hell do you think that is? Like that is a heartbeat. Seriously, they say a flickering pulse, I believe was the term they used to describe it.
Amazing.
As if it's not, like it's in question as to whether it's a heartbeat. Is it a heartbeat? Is it a strobe light? We don't know. It's a flickering pulse of some sort.
And one of the things that the NPR guidance said was that you don't say unborn child because that's something that pro-life people came up with to shift public opinion.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, when a woman is pregnant and they want to have the child, they call it the child. They call it their unborn child. They humanize it. So it's only when somebody doesn't want the pregnancy that suddenly you try to dehumanize it so you can justify doing something that you know in your heart in a way is wrong. But now in the media, we want to sort of change the narrative.
I mean, when my wife was pregnant, we hoped that it was a child, but we didn't know. It could have been a car. It could have been a Volkswagen.
Well, I mean, to that point, why do you call it a baby shower?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right?
Baby bump. Why is it a baby bump?
It's very self-evident that we believe it to be a human child when a woman is pregnant. But now, because of the abortion debate, we're seeing all these terms that sort of just, shade up the debate a little bit to where you can't really get to the heart of the issue that you're talking about. The taking of a human life when you're talking about abortion.
And look, all the Democratic presidential nominees, they have no lines. Mm-hmm. They will take it. No, there's no lines to when asked about what's the line. There's no. The line is it's woman's right. It's a woman's right.
Yeah,
it's the woman's body. It's not. What about where's there a day or a time when it becomes a baby? No, that's up to the women. Doesn't matter. I mean, you could be 10 years old. If the mom wants you gone, you're gone.
Mommy's choice.
And this debate sort of overlooks the fact that in a lot of these situations, especially if you're talking about a couple, people in a relationship, married or whatever, the man is involved in the decision in the sense that they're making that together. Mm-hmm. And that's a positive thing. You would want those two people to come together and make that decision, hopefully in favor of life. And so this idea that the man has nothing to do with it, no, it is not the man's body. No, he does not carry the child, but the man has to be involved in it in some way, ideally because the man is the father of that child.
Why do you hate women?
I don't know. I'm working on it.
It is bizarre. Well, but I mean, and then the man, if the woman has a child, the man, let's say the divorce, the man would still be legally responsible for paying for it. So how's that?
And the way they work this terminology is fascinating. I mean, like I think in the NPR piece it says you can say people are anti-abortion protesters. You cannot say they are pro-abortion protesters because no one wants to be pro-abortion, which is why you're pro-choice, right? And the word fetus gets thrown around as if it's like foreign alien from another planet. Fetus just means an unborn offspring. Right. That's all it means. It's like there's certain parts of the pregnancy in which it's typically defined as, but it's not this mysterious thing. It's a human being. It's just not born yet. It's an offspring of the mom.
They've even divided that up a little bit more in talking about the heartbeat bills to where they say, well, a heartbeat can be detected before an embryo becomes a fetus. And so now you're calling it an embryo and not a fetus. So there's just another level of separation from calling it a baby or an unborn baby or whatever the case might be.
Man, that separation is just amazing. I find it so, it's staggering how far we go to not admit that's a child.
Well, again, like the whole thing about it not being a child is like they talk about science denying. You know, they say that we're denying science because we don't like the 1 degree Celsius temperature change, and we're like, I mean, like that's us denying science. Like the heartbeat one is really incredible.
Sure is.
I mean, they're acting as if they don't know what it is. They're acting as if it's this flickering pulse. Maybe there's a rave going on in there. We can't tell. I mean, that's insanity. Is absolute denial of science. Absolutely. They created these magical devices where you can look and hear and see like what's going on inside of a womb. It's incredible, and every mother cherishes it. They have these 3D, ultrasounds now, which are incredible. You can see like the one we got of my son. I can actually see his face today in there.
Really?
Which is really amazing.
Mine was not so close. It was a little worrisome.
Sometimes they look like aliens in there. But the point is, all of this has been,
Mine was an Impala.
Really?
Impala.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Automatic or standard?
Yeah, automatic.
Okay.
American made at least.
Oh, there you go. But I mean, like we go through these levels of technology to make the experience of a mother more, you want to get more involved. Like motherhood, I think, and dads as well. Like we're getting to a point where we get more and more involved. And that's a great thing. And here we are, like we have to now deny the things that we're actually seeing and hearing to get past the arguments. When that's true, you've lost the argument already. Yeah. You're just in denial.
I would just like to point out, for the record, I'm the only one at the table with a magic birth canal that turns an Impala into an actual human being.
You don't know how Jeffy defines.
Thank you.
Just gonna say.
Thank you, Stu, because
back in a minute.
How dare you?
Wow. You don't know which gender.
I've got the magic body that transforms things into human life.
You're actually the only one who can
look
talk
at
about this.
Yeah. All right, coming up next spring, there is a really amazing cruise taking place that our good friend Stu Bergier is actually going to be a part of, along with Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and David Barton. And it's called The Cruise Through History. And I just... picture this, if you will, 14 days where you start in Venice and you get to go to Croatia and Greece and where else?
Israel,
yes. I mean, are you kidding me? With you guys, with Glenn, knowing all the history that he knows about those places?
Very few Americans have spent time with me on a boat, and those who have really enjoyed it.
Did they?
Yes, I've been told in online reviews.
So, like your family?
Yeah, well, yeah, mostly.
What star review are you?
I got a 2-star, solid 2-star. The good thing is you don't have to depend on me being interesting to go on this. It's going to be great. I'm going to be more interested in what's going on, honestly, than anything we're going to be saying. I mean, seeing these things that are foundations of our civilization. All in one trip, not to mention great Italian food. So I've been told that I can bring some Taco Bell on board too if you guys need any. It's going to be fun.
I've been on a trip with David Barton before. I actually have been on a trip with David Barton before, and it is amazing.
Because he knows everything about everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I bet. Oh my gosh, just a wealth of information. There are different packages that you can choose from. So you can go to comesailaway.com to learn more. That is comesailaway.com for all of the deets, as we cool kids like to say.
Wow.
Say deets. Just saying.
Oh, you are just so
Jeffy.
hip.
I know. Michael Avenatti.
My main man, Michael Avenatti. He is, the lawyer from, the attorney from the gods.
Yes.
Happening. So he's back in the news again because he got cheap screwed. Stormy Daniels, not really the good way, took the money from her. And again, this is what he does, right? His clients, he takes money from his clients. With the Stormy Daniels story is, new, but still the same thing he was doing to almost every one of his clients, was saying, no, the money hasn't come in yet. He talked to the book people and said, yeah, when the money comes in, send it to this account. This is the account the money needs to go to. So when Stormy kept asking, is the money coming in? Yeah, no, I haven't heard a thing.
And he forged her signature,
haven't heard
right?
a thing from the book people, but then he's deep pocketing the money himself. I mean, he did this to the other client, his one handicapped client that he had for a number of years. He had a huge settlement, and the guy kept asking for the settlement, and he kept telling him, it's still in pro. I'm trying to get you, here, you know what? Let me give you, and he'd give him like $1,500 a pop whenever the guy asked for something, and just say, here, go ahead, pay your rent, take care of some things. I got you, but the big chunk of money hasn't come in yet. Well, yeah, it had. He was just busy spending it.
On Ferrari payments and
Does anyone remember when he was the big media darling not that
Like,
long ago?
I don't know, like a
Maybe the
full year
president?
of 254, 57 times on television when they loved him, when they were actually speaking the words of him running for president. Those times? Are those the times you're referring to?
Yeah, just those times.
I mean, it's amazing.
So revealing about the media. I mean, and more revealing than anything is about how much they just despise Donald Trump. And like, I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump by any means.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's shocking to hear. However, I will say, like, it's not even the fact that they don't like him or they disagree with him or any of these things. It's that they are completely obsessed with him. There's like a level of obsession. They never like Republicans. They never like anybody who does something that's conservative. They never like anyone who says we should have border security or many of the things that Trump says. But they are completely obsessed with Trump, and it makes them make ridiculous decisions like embracing Michael Avenatti.
There's nothing about him that's redeeming, except to them that he opposed Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if what he was saying was true. It doesn't matter. It's just, can we take this guy down? Because there's been this incredible wrong, and we have to be able to right it. We talked yesterday to Mark Levin about his book on freedom of the press, and I think that's a big part of it. Like, he pointed out that, we've had a big transition from journalist to activist, which I think is definitely true. And I think another part of this is they are seeing their power go away. Like, the power base of the media in D.C. and New York, like, they had control over basically American opinion for a really long time. And now that's slipping out of their hands, so they're doubling and tripling down. It's like, it's the same thing you see with like global warming activists when, it looks like no one's listening to their warnings. They just get the warnings get more intense and they get more, more hyperbolic. And I think that's what happens with the media. They no longer even want to give you the impression that they're trying to be fair. And that's a change. I mean, like with George Bush, they would try to make it at least seem like they were fair and balanced. Now they're not even attempting it because they're righting some social wrong that they've all convinced themselves must be righted. And Avenatti is a perfect example of
perfect. And on top of all the times that he was on television, spewing whatever it is he wanted to spew, the Donald Trump hate, off the camera, on set, he was treating people like crap. There were reports of how he was hollering at people and hollering at underlings and treating people just like dirt bags. And they still let it slide. Again, to your point of they didn't care, it didn't matter because he was the front guy.
He's legitimately a criminal, and they wanted to find a rival for Trump so bad that they would embrace somebody. What did he do, extort Nike for trying to get $20 million or something like that?
Yeah. Extortion's such a hard word.
Yeah. Negotiations, is that what you call it?
Well, and I mean, you talk about the media, what you just, to add to your points too, Chris Cuomo, I heard that he came out and said, well, yeah, the Democrats have to move forward with impeachment so that we can find out if Donald Trump has done anything that's impeachable.
Right. That's how you search out the facts for the impeachment through the impeachment investigation.
Got to pass the bill to read before.
That's exactly what I thought of. That's exactly what I thought of when I heard it.
That's not supposed to be how you use it. It's supposed to be something that you're sure happened, and then you go into that proceeding. At least
so, like, almost if there was like a 2-year investigation on something.
They should try that.
No, they got that wrong. Did you not hear that report was wrong? So they need to do another one.
Oh, another 2-year investigation?
Well, some of that, the last investigation, some of it was redacted. So that's the stuff that said the bad things, and we have to look
the
at that.
Very few things that were redacted. I mean, it must have been where all the salacious details
It really
were.
is. I keep saying it's unbelievable, and it's not unbelievable because it's believable in today's world, but it's just amazing.
Yeah, they're not even trying anymore.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. You'd think the time that they would want to try would be when their ratings are in the toilet. Jeffy, what's going on Chewing the Fat?
Well, it's a daily podcast that's available wherever free podcasts are sold, and you should subscribe to Chewing the Fat with Jeff Fisher. I mean, one of the main things that we have going on with Chewing the Fat is it's one of the few podcasts where you're going to get inside royal coverage. I mean, I have a Windsor whisperer inside the royal castle. And
royal coverage?
That's right.
Why should we care about that?
Because we care about the royals.
Why?
Because this is America. Yes, we do.
We fought to get away from them.
No, we care about the royals. We love the royals, man.
Is Meghan Markle coming back to Suits? If she comes back to Suits, that's the news.
The Windsor Whisperer is covering that next week.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I legitimately, do you really follow the royal family?
Absolutely.
I don't get it.
Perhaps you should listen to Chewing the Fat. Listen to Chewing the Fat. You'll get it.
I was hoping for a better sell than that.
Really? Well, what you get.
If it's really Mike Ross's baby, I think it is.
I think it is too.
All right, overtime starts next. You don't want to miss it with these guys.
No, I think it is.
It is, right?
It is.
And they said they went to Seattle or whatever.